Hello, everyone, and I'm the Dead Man, and I just want to do a quick review of Superman 2025. I'm basically gonna read what I wrote elsewhere, not on Twitter, but elsewhere, and just give you my thoughts. There's no spoilers, no spoilers. I just got back, so there's a few things that are like, why include that? Didn't like it. Um, he comes off as whiny, and speaking of whiny, Lex Luthor. I mean, Nicholas Holt starts good as Lex Luthor. He starts off good, but then turns into a whiny bitch towards the end. Uh, and over the top, cartoonish, in my opinion. Uh, Gunn managed to make me like Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, which I didn't think was possible because I've never liked that version of the Green Lantern. And by the way, just so everybody knows, I've always been DC fan. It wasn't until I've always liked Spider-Man, but it wasn't until Iron Man, the first one, came out that I actually started getting into like Marvel. I watched the X-Men cartoon back in the day, but Superman has been my favorite since I was forever, since as long as I can remember. Uh, Maybe I'll anyway. So points for making me like Guy Gardner, which is why this movie is getting the points that I'm giving it. Hawk Girl was good, but this is another one of those why not do this moments where it's like, why not use Cher, the redhead girl from the Justice League animated. Why not use her instead? It feels like a missed opportunity. And it didn't feel overcrowded. So points for that too. Metamorpho was used well, I think. Like I said, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, all used pretty well. I never knew who the hell Mr. Terrific was. I say that as I just got done saying, I'm a DC guy. Well, I'm sorry, I must have missed that one. There are reused plots and themes from past movies, which is one of those why do that moment. There's politics, yes, and some clear politics in there, but it doesn't beat you over the head like, say, Star Trek Discovery or whatever does, or Doctor Who, or some of these more recent things. It's I think there's some stand-ins there for Luthor, and his I'd say his name rhymes with Tusk, put it that way. And then there's another stand-in character who's kind of a cross between his name rhymes with Jetnahu and Thump. So that's kind of one of those moments. It couldn't be more obvious. The Kents were underused, I think. Kents were underused. There's a good moment where they go to the Kent farm and Lois is there. I guess that is kind of a spoiler, but you get to see like why she likes him, and they give Jimmy Olsen something to do that was really good. Lois. People have been saying this is the best Lois Lane. I'd say this is the best live action Lois Lane. The animated series has a pretty good Lois Lane. Pretty good Lois Lane. And speaking of animated series, there's some elements of the 90s series, but this one feels more like My Adventures with Superman. That type of feel. So if you ever seen that show, that's what it feels like. Corn Sweat is fine. I don't have a problem with him. I like Henry Cavill too. I mean, I'm not like a Snyder bro, but if they want a younger version, that he's good with it. What I don't like is Superman is constantly being saved by other people or his dog, not his dog. Or it's kind of his dog, I guess. And if you know, then you know. But there are parts where, like I said, Luthor is just too cartoonish. Starts off good. I don't know what happened at the end. He just comes across as like cartoonish and over the top. I don't know. I like James Gunn's humor, but this is a little too goofy in parts. There's a huge fan service, especially if you're an older fan and you grew up, in a certain era, the 80s, 70s, 80s. There's a huge that I was not expecting, and I said, "Oh wow," out loud. And it's something that I've always wanted to see live action, and I hope they keep it. If this goes forward into Justice League and all that, I really, really hope they keep this one thing. So huge fan service points for that. There's some things. There's one thing in here that I really, really hate. I'm not gonna give that away. There is there's a couple of things that are just spoiler. Like I can't go further without, that I just thought was completely necessary. If you've listened to some of the rumors, they're true, and it's just completely ridiculous, unnecessary. There's also some things that took me out of it that just were completely. I lost my verisimilitude, as Robert Meyer Burnett would say. And it has to do with like characterizations, things they say out loud, and then completely do the opposite. And with two characters in particular, Luthor and Rick Flag. And I was just like, no, there's no way that they would do that, but they did it. So really liking this. I know that some people don't. I'm more of a forgiving of it. Sorry, I got popcorn in my teeth. I'm more forgiving of it because of some of the things that Gunn did right. He did really well. That you don't see in like Superman Returns with Lois Lane. You don't see. This is a totally different movie. Like it's not really comparable to the other, to Man of Steel or any of the other ones. Really, this is. Think of it's a live action cartoon basically. Which you would think, okay, Lex Luthor, but they've done Lex Luthor much better in the cartoons. He wasn't like over the top, mustache twirling villain. like he is towards the end of the movie here. At the beginning, he's great. The end, it really turned me off. But like I said, I'm much more forgiving. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I was gonna go lower, but what he did with Lois Lane um and the fan service thing, uh, kind of makes me want to give it a little higher score. Like 6.5 was what I was initially thinking, but I think it deserves a little more than that because this is, I mean, other than the animated series, this is the best Lois Lane we've got, and she's great. Brosnahan brought it. Uh, really, not really. Um, so that's about it. I mean, that's my review. Uh, Only other thing is like would have, knowing what I know, I could have waited for streaming. I don't know, that's not a ringing endorsement, but uh, I don't like going to the theaters anyway. Not anymore. I will go for certain movies. I went for Oppenheimer. I went for The Flash. I went for, uh, well, yeah, Nolan is the one person that'll I'll almost always go to the movies for. I even saw Tenet, and Tenet is not even his best movie. It's on the lower end of his movies, and I had to watch it twice to really understand it anyway. Not in a good way, not in a good way. Multiple times to understand it, but that's in a good way. You know, to wrap your head